Good evening. I am here to present to you my project on fitness center member retention. We are going to go ahead and jump in just so we can move through all of the information. First, we'll start with a little bit about who I am. My name is Ashley, and I am a student at American University. I do have a background in the health and fitness industry, which drove the interest in this topic. Here is just a few of the topics that we're going to cover in the next few minutes. Just kind of moving in order from background to setup to results, and then finally some recommendations. Brief introduction to my client. The Lenexa Rec Center is a 100,000 square foot facility that has many different amenities and features, some of which you can see in the photos. Kind of the overview and kind of the brief background, membership revenue really is one of the biggest revenue sources. And so looking at the two choices that we have, understanding that it is 5 times more expensive to acquire new members than it is to keep new members, want to take a look at how can we work on keeping new members so that we can keep expenses down. My particular hypothesis is looking at the impact that staff belief and behaviors can have on that, with the null hypothesis being there's no relationship, and the research hypothesis being that there's going to be a positive relationship. The participants of this study totaled 21, all of whom were employed by the Lenexa Rec Center staff. Here is some demographic information about them. One caveat on that is that you'll see down there at the number of employees by department that doesn't equal 21, and that's just because some employees did indicate that they worked in multiple departments. The methods, this was an online survey sent via email. Questions were related to employee beliefs, behaviors, job satisfaction, demographic information, and SPSS version 26 was used to analyze the data. This first slide here is showing you just some responses on beliefs. All of them but the very bottom one were yes or no categorical responses. This is totaling the number of yeses or no's. The only line that had a no was achieving a goal. That's indicated by the asterisk. And then the responsible for retention down at the bottom, that was broken down by department. All 21 respondents said that it is everybody's job to keep members of the facility. When we look at the behaviors, we really did see on the 3 that we looked at that the staff really do tend to do it more than they don't. Positive sign. When we look at job satisfaction, that was a little bit more varied, still very positive on average. Interesting to point out that people were more satisfied with the center supervisor than they may be on average with their current job. Also a good sign. So do the member beliefs that we looked at, do they have a strong enough relationship that we could maybe hint at them causing behavior? Greeting members by name was really the only one that showed a significant statistic and was by far the strongest relationship at the 0.722. Cleanliness and picking up trash really was, you see there was an inverse relationship, and that conclusion is when ranking that cleanliness was important, picking up trash probably just was not the thing that they were utilizing to say, yes, it's important. Hence the weak and inverse relationship there. And finally, programs and services, recommending it to members, weakest relationship by far, which tells me that the behavior is not driven by the belief that it's important to member retention specifically. So as we look and continue in to see if there is any significant difference between the groups, I looked specifically at gender, employment status, and job satisfaction. So looking again at greeting members by name, there was no difference between male and female employees and full and part-time employees, which was interesting, but there was a significant relationship with job satisfaction, which just to me says the happier somebody was with the job, the more likely they were going to be to utilize somebody's name in conversation, and inverse also being true. Taking a look at cleanliness, again, because picking up trash really is not a strong relationship at all. There was no significant difference between any of the groups. With job satisfaction there, just meaning it's probably just a personal characteristic that has no bearing on whether they believe it's important or not. And then finally, looking at programs and services, this mirrors again the greeting members by name. No difference between male and female employees or full-time and part-time employees, but again, there was a difference when looking at job satisfaction, which again is very intuitive. The happier you are with the job, the more likely you're going to share it with others or recommend things, and the inverse also again being true. So can this data be utilized to make any projections about future or what this could potentially mean? When you look at greeting members by name, again, just because of the strength of that relationship, you can see this is going to be the strongest trend line that you'll see. Really seeing that that belief is kind of driving that behavior. Facility cleanliness, again, the only reason, in my opinion, that you're really seeing much of a trend line or even an inverse trend line is the data point that is down there in the bottom right corner that's pulling kind of that negative influence on it there. And you'll see, really just kind of again as a side note to drive home, that picking up trash was not related to an employee believing that cleanliness is important. You can see down there that you have a case or some cases that say on that 3 that I always am picking up trash, and when you narrow that over, you'll see that's at a 0, meaning they don't think cleanliness is important to keeping members. So again, just kind of showing it may be more of a personal characteristic than a belief that is tied to member retention. And then programs and services, again, you do have a slight positive trend line here, but really, again, just goes back to there's really not a strong relationship. You can see just how far off the points are from the trend line. And again, just going back, it really, the belief and the behavior are not tied together there. So how does this data help make some recommendations? The first one is for the Lenexa Rec Center to start tracking the reasons behind it. This came out prior to development of the survey, and so really the particular points that I looked at were based on my own history and what I have seen just over my time in the industry. It could very well be that once they find out and are actually starting to track reasons, that they may find completely different things that they can start to take a look at. Once you have those, my second recommendation is that they really make sure their staff are trained, not only on the process, if there is a process tied to it, but understanding why. And this is really more of a connecting the dots recommendation. This staff generally is happy and they're generally doing things that are going to support membership retention. And so if we can just connect those dots and get them understanding why they're doing it, it's really going to, I think, mesh everything together and really allow belief to drive behavior. And this again goes back to that point that they all agreed, the population sample agreed that it's everybody's job to keep members. And so again, just connecting those dots is really going to help move that needle forward for them. And then finally, just because this did pop up a little bit, making sure that there is ways to help keep job satisfaction high, specifically on the individual level. High job satisfaction is going to equivalent to a higher tendency for an employee to follow through on an organizational initiative, such as one that may be developed to help increase member retention. Thank you guys for your time. My contact information is there below. Should you have any questions, I'd be happy to expand further. Have a good night.